Hey guys, Daniel Alexander here from Tutors for Transcendence, and I just want to take this time to talk to you guys about cultivating a desire to learn. Okay, so this is something that's not really nurtured in our society today. A lot of the learning that happens in public and even private schools is kind of this forced learning, and in my life in particular, I was brought up in that kind of environment. And it really gave me a distaste for the education systems and even for learning. I was not really one to want to learn, at least in the ways that they wanted me to learn, right? I did do a lot of learning growing up, but it was a very experience-based and interactive learning. For example, my brothers and I would come to places like this. It's just this called Addicts Dam. This is in Houston, Texas, where I was born and raised. And we'd come to places like this, and we would, see the wildlife. We got birds fishing behind me. There's snakes that live in these rocks. There's bugs everywhere. So we would, go and we would see the wildlife. We'd catch the wildlife, interact in that way. And there's lots of bayous around Houston. Fortunately, it's to some degree, Houston has preserved some natural habitats within the city boundaries, which is a very great thing to maintain the sanity of large populations like the people of the city of Houston. But back to cultivating that desire to learn. So, I learned a lot through having these experiences, and it really helped to have 4 brothers who taught me a lot growing up. And so, in this society, a lot of parents, they're kind of pressured into having their kids enter into these public systems, which are still kind of founded on this very regimented, forced learning style. And so it's very important to, as much as we can, instill in our kids and instill in ourselves this desire to learn. So a part of that cultivation of that desire is loosening our perspective from these rigid concepts, right? These structural conceptions or perceptions of reality. For instance, when we look at a tree, oftentimes we don't take the time, we don't take the moment to appreciate what is actually present in the form of what we call a tree. When we kind of are going in our daily autopilot, we see the tree and we see the leaves and we see it's green and we see the trunk is brown and maybe there's a little bit of pattern there, but we don't really see the tree, the full embodiment of what that tree represents. And so part of this facilitating a desire to learn is really practicing taking time to appreciate and meditate and contemplate on these things like a tree. A tree is one of my favorite things in nature to contemplate and meditate on, because it's so representative of this inherent nature of everything. It's symbolic, it's metaphorical to the underlying infinitude, you might say, or the underlying expression of life and the universe. And so, when we're contemplating on something like a tree, all we're doing, I'm looking behind the camera because there's a great tree right there, a nice pine tree. And there's some oaks to my right that are nice and beautiful. So what we do when we contemplate on something like a tree is we relax our mind, relax our body, and we move into a state of pure awareness. It's something to think about is when we come into this world, as a baby, when we're born, the neural networks of the brain have not yet been established. It's this kind of blank slate, this, sponge of electromagnetic activity, you might say, literally in the brain of a baby, these more rigid neural networks haven't formed yet. So the baby doesn't have these concepts of say a tree or a house or a book or whatever it may be. And so, as we develop and as our minds develop and our brains begin to form these structures of perception, we begin to create these concepts. And the baby, through this repetition, through this feedback of awareness, begins to establish these neural networks that allow for quick processing, right? And all of that is for this purpose of survival, okay? We form these concepts so that we can react quickly in every environment and work to preserve our lives. Now, that is the very instinctual foundation of our minds. And so, being the intelligent beings that we are and being on this path of transcendence that we are, part of this process is moving beyond this fear-based reaction mindset, okay? We have developed the capability to provide ourselves with the essentials to life. We have made living easy, you might say, and it gives us this potential to continue to learn and to remove this fear and move into a state of awareness that facilitates that learning. So, talking about the child and having this kind of pure awareness, it's that pure awareness that really roots us to who we are, and it also shows us these inherent patterns. When we relax the mind enough, we can begin to see the grand patterns apparent throughout the universe, throughout all of existence, or throughout this reality that we exist in. So, something to add, a lot of the great masters that have walked the earth have talked about being as a child. So again, part of that is relating to this awareness, this perception that a child has. So kind of a concept that I like to think about is that we come into this world with this pure, perfect awareness, but we're unable to interact with this world. And so part of this transcendence process, to me, is this ability to hold on to that pure awareness, that ability to see truth, you might say, but still be able to interact with this world of materiality, or this world of conceptual existence, you might say. And so, all that being said, to kind of bring it back to this desire to learn, or cultivating this desire, it's not something, it's something that should be natural to us, right? The child does it naturally. They pick up languages naturally. They pick up their environment naturally. And it's when we start to force a child to not just to learn, but to learn, things that they can't find applicable to their existence, or that they just don't want to learn. And so we really have to make sure that we are cultivating the child's desire to learn, and our own desire to learn, and that we are feeding that desire with the proper information, with the proper environment. And so you can't go wrong getting out into nature. Nature, it shows us the foundation of who we are. We can't exist without the trees. We can't exist without the soil. the microbiotics, the fungi. That is at our foundation. We are the fruit of this earth, right? We are the abundance of this earth. And, you know, getting a little abstract here, but it all relates. You know, we are kind of severing ourselves from this earth and causing our own demise. And so, part of this whole transcendence process is reconnecting, is regrounding ourselves in the foundation of who we are and where we come from. And it's so important, especially in cities like this, in the city of Houston, you know, where you can't see the stars, right? Where a lot of the ground is covered with cement, you know, where you have these constant noises going on, just where it's almost an artificial desert even, right? In some way you could think of it that way. And so, you know, those are the places where people really need this understanding, this ability to reconnect with the heart of who they are, with their own hearts, but with what is keeping their heart pumping, you might say. So, you know, I'm here just to share myself with the world and try and help people reconnect with the world. You know, it's only because I want to create a peaceful world. You know, you might say it's a selfish desire of mine to have peace on this world, to have abundance on this world. But it's going to take all of us reconnecting and remembering how to exist harmoniously with the nature of all that is. So thanks for listening, guys.